I'm going to do it. I'm going to kick the football. This is it. Ah! That's for years of humiliation, bitch.
The Peanuts. I'm sure some of you have heard of the Peanuts gang. If you don't, you're probably too young. But I'm gonna educate you anyways. The Peanuts is a print-syndicated daily American comic strip series that published from October 1950 to February 2000, and it was illustrated by Charles M. Schulz. He was widely regarded as one of the most influential cartoonists of all time, and an inspiration to other cartoonists, like Matt Groening of The Simpsons and Jim Davis of Garfield. The series ran in over 2,600 newspapers worldwide with over 350 million reads, and a total of 17,897 comic strips illustrated. My god, this man definitely had the patience and creativity to produce one of the longest running comic strips of all time. The series focuses on a small social group of young children where adults exist but are never seen or rarely heard. The main character, Charlie Brown, is a humble but anxious kid that lacks confidence and motivation. And in many scenarios, he fails to succeed or win due to his insecurities or just plain bad luck. For example, he attempts to kick a football held by his obnoxious friend Lucy, who always pulls it away at the last second, causing him to fall.
And now for the surprise. Would you like to see how that looked on instant replay?
This moment in particular has been parodied many times before, and it definitely shows. We also meet with other characters like Linus, Peppermint Patty, Marcy, Sally, Schroeder, Franklin, and of course, Woodstock and Snoopy. And Schulz did a remarkable job portraying the characters as not just kids, but have adult thoughts and emotions and trying to make it on their own. While the comic strips do contain some heartwarming moments and teaching life lessons, I didn't realize they also had some dark humor as well. They were expanded with topics like rejection, embarrassment, alienation, discrimination, and loss, but kind of in a funny way. That was the 50s, folks. The comic and characters have a large amount of appeal in terms of their simplicity. The comic strip series developed basic stories that us, the readers, can easily comprehend and feel related to. And that's kind of how it became successful and recognizable for readers all over the world. The Peanuts comic strips ran until the last strip was published on February 13, 2000, a day after Charles's passing due to colon cancer. But he left a legacy for the Peanuts and became one of the most loved comic strip series in history. And while he didn't want anyone to continue the series for him, even to this day, many people still honor his legacy and impact to culture with the Peanuts. However, during the popularity of the comics, the Peanuts was adapted to other pieces of media, mainly the television specials and movies. This is where the series got more widespread attention, starting as an animation promo for a few episodes of the Tennessee Ernie Ford show in the 1960s, and a commercial for a new vehicle called the Ford Fairlane 500.
Ford has new economy twins, so he's passing out chocolate cigars to everyone. Everyone? Yes, everyone.
There was also a documentary in 1963 about Charles Schulz and his history with the Peanuts called A Boy Named Charlie Brown that was mixed in with a couple of animation segments. However, it never aired on television and wouldn't get a chance to be officially released until the end of 2005. But then, it was the 1965 CBS television special, A Charlie Brown Christmas, produced by Leigh Mendelson and directed by Bill Melendez, that impacted television with massive praise from critics and audiences, even to this day. And it was the beginning of a tidal wave of many Peanut specials, movies, and TV shows that a lot of people still remember to this day. It is an interesting look back at all of the success that Charles had brought onto the table with the Peanuts franchise, and even today, people still look back at these specials and remember all the fun moments and lessons we learned from the Peanuts gang, even myself. I still remember fondly of the Christmas special, the Halloween special, the Valentine's Day specials, the 1969 feature film, even the most recent Peanuts movie by Blue Sky Studios, which by the way is extremely underrated. Although strangely, I also remember that weird Super Bowl special they did as a tie-in for Super Bowl 28 in 1994.
Harding is at the 30, the 20, the 10, and touchdown Harding! He goes into his popular winged Watusi, and the score jumps to 14 for the Birds and a big goose egg for the Bison.
But with that being said, while the Peanuts continued to grow tremendous success for decades, even towards the modern era, that also left a room for various parodies and references in other pieces of media. Two examples that I could think of would be the Robot Chicken parodies from the Great Pumpkin Monster Murder Rampage to a spoof of the 1990 film Misery.
Good grief.
I can't do anything right. Even my sister's a psycho. I never thought she was that bad. She wasn't that bad at all, really. Maybe she just needed a little love.
But what if I told you there was a short film on the Peanuts that is straight up unapologetically violent, and it was made by one of the directors of The Simpsons? That short film is called Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown. Oh, this is gonna be a fascinating ride.
Snoopy, have you seen Linus? He was supposed to walk me to chemo.
So what in good grief is Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown? Well, it was a short film created by Jim Reardon in 1986, and it was a student project for the California Institute of the Arts, or CalArts for short. He attended the character animation program at CalArts in 1982, and he soon created this somewhat satirical film based on the Peanuts gang. Although once this film came onto the public thanks to some random YouTube uploads, it has grown a cult following for quite a long while. I can't fully recall how I came onto the short film, but I think I remembered watching some clips from a couple of Charlie Brown specials on YouTube a long time ago, and this somehow came onto my recommendations. I saw the title and my first thought was, huh, what is this? I never even heard of this special. I mean, looks interesting. Why not? I'll give it a watch. I'm sure it's gonna be pretty.
A few minutes later...
I think I saw my childhood burst into flames. Okay, it wasn't exactly like that, but close enough. But seriously, it's been a long time since I watched the short film, so now I think it's time to look back at the most insane Peanuts short film of all time. Although, fair warning, this does contain infrequent amounts of violence that I'm sure YouTube will be up on me for, so most of the footage you'll see will be censored. And God knows if I have to look at this sign on my YouTube page. I'm in fear of this platform, guys. I really am. And I unfortunately cannot find a better quality version of the short film, so I gotta make do with what's available at the moment. But I'll describe to you guys on what's happening on screen the best I can, and oh boy, is this gonna be interesting for all the wrong reasons. So the short film starts off kind of like a trailer for an upcoming Peanuts special along with a sponsorship announcement from Madison Barnes, who are the quote-unquote makers of Ding Dongs, Twinkies, Poofdas, and Wussy Cakes. Also the narration? Oh man, it's something else.
This Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, another heartwarming holiday special starring the Peanuts gang.
We see a few of the Peanuts characters, Linus, Lucy, Schroeder, and Snoopy, who are kneeling in fear to the Great Pumpkin, who is smoking a cigarette and announces a bounty on Charlie Brown, prompting the gang to try to kill him. Lucy makes her first attempt by doing the famous football gag, except that the football is disguised as a bomb, so when Charlie runs in and kicks the ball, what's funny here is that part of the title is cut off, so it just reads, "Bring me the head, oh Charlie Brown." Also, just a heads up, the voice acting in the short film is so intentionally awful that it's worth having a laugh at. Listen to how Charlie and Lucy sound.
Are you ready, Lucy?
Just a minute. Okay, blockhead.
We then see Charlie approaching Schroeder, who apparently is playing without his tiny piano in his hands, and he asks him, where's his piano? And then a giant piano literally falls on top of him, yet miraculously Charlie's still alive. Then we see Snoopy preparing to fly in his doghouse like a World War I flying ace on a Red Baron until he gets shot down by machine guns. We are introduced to Peppermint Patty, which is not the character, but an actual piece of a peppermint patty that Charlie holds onto his hand until Snoopy literally bites it off and blood starts spraying tremendously out of his giant wound. What didn't help is that they actually used the Hanna-Barbera scream for Charlie when he's in pain. Then we have the kite-eating tree that just falls on top of Charlie. Jesus, the randomness makes it all the more hilarious. We move on to the iconic brick wall scene between Charlie and Linus, as Charlie realizes that everyone is after him. That is until Linus tries to strangle the life out of Charlie using his blanket to the point of unconsciousness. God damn, these kids are brutal. Never in my life would I ever see Linus choke the ever-living shit out of Charlie with his safety blanket. It is just so surreal that I almost kind of find it entertaining. I don't know why. Although, for some reason, Charlie's choking noise has a strange reverb and echo effect. I don't know if that's premeditated, but it sounds really weird. So Charlie disguises himself with a coat and a bit of hair to avoid being recognized and vulnerable to the public. Unfortunately, it's not enough as the gang comes running in like an angry mob ready to kill Charlie Brown once and for all. Alright, you're still with me? Because I know the first 2 minutes of this film has been bonkers so far, with all the attempts to try and murder Charlie Brown. But I swear, what I'm about to describe to you in the next minute will make you reevaluate the meaning of life. So, are you ready? This is gonna be batshit insane. So Charlie's had enough of running from the bloodthirsty gang that he dons a mohawk, arms himself with a submachine and a shotgun. You're still with me, right? Okay, this sequence though, oof. And somehow develops the Terminator accent when he says, "See you in hell." And then he proceeds to massacre the entirety of the Peanuts gang, even blowing off the brain of Snoopy and blasting the head of Lucy after she retaliates by shooting Charlie on the shoulder. And oh, we're not done yet, because after that, we have a montage of Charlie Brown annihilating everything else and some random shit happening out of nowhere. He takes down a group of Mexican bandits, a Nazi machine gun nest that had Hitler painting a flower for some reason, and Richard Simmons who was doing jumping jacks. This is later followed by Charlie's sister Sally getting decapitated by an axe, a baby dragon breathing fire, Pigpen vomiting on Violet's face, 2 planes crashing into each other, a woman kicking a man in the balls so hard that his head explodes, Mickey Mouse getting smashed in the head with a steel pipe, Rocky Balboa getting knocked the fuck out by Popeye, and Godzilla crushing a giant can of Dr. Pepper.
What the hell?
Then we see the aftermath, which is a giant, violent, and bloody mess. And Charlie Brown is standing tall with his thick Terminator accent. He says, "Happiness is a warm Uzi." I'm sorry, I suck at these accents. We see the final shot of Charlie in bed with that redhead girl from the first Kiss special, which, aren't they kids? I don't fucking know at this point. And he turns off the light. And that's the end, with the song Charlie Brown sung by the Coasters playing in the background of the credits. Oh, one more thing. This message from John Reardon at the end of the credits is by far the funniest thing I have ever seen from this short film. Here's what it says. The creator of this picture wishes to state that he does not in any way wish to tarnish or demean the beloved characters of Charles M. Dudge Schultz comic strip Peanuts. No malice or damage to their goodwill was intended. So please don't sue me, because it will drag through the courts for years, and I haven't got a lawyer. And besides, you've already got half the money in the world, and I haven't gotten any. Okay? Oof, okay. So where do I unpack here? This was one hell of a short film. Since this is a parody short film based on the Peanuts and referenced numerous different movies, I don't really have a lot to say about it. I mentioned before that the voice acting is awful, but I think that was intentional, so I'm not gonna really dock points on that. But just imagine if they got the original voice actors to do this short film. That would be 10 times more bizarre. And I'm surprised that even for the time, the animation is still pretty decent. Yeah, it's rough around the edges, but this isn't really official material and was made by a couple of colleagues with a sense of visceral and shock humor. But hey, at least the animation's pretty smooth, even though it kinda looks unfinished. And let's not forget about the film references throughout the short. Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown is a spoof title from Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, which was a 1974 neo-western film by director Sam Peckinpah, which Jim actually referenced his movies the most. That scene where Charlie Brown gets shot by Lucy on the shoulder is a shot-for-shot reference to one of Sam's films, The Wild Bunch, in which during a violent climatic scene, the main character Pepe Bishop gets shot by a prostitute and retaliated by shooting back at her. In fact, Jim used the exact soundbite from that scene in particular. You can tell Jim was a big fan of Sam's work since he dedicated the short film to him at the end of the credits. But there were also other film references, like Charlie's transition with a mohawk is a homage to the main character Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. The audio clip of Linus choking Charlie is from the Monty Python skit Farewell to John Denver, and the Godzilla Dr. Pepper sequence was from the Dr. Pepper ad campaign from the 1985 film The Return of Godzilla. Well, retitled Godzilla for American releases. Hell, the first time I watched this short, I didn't even understand these references, but now watching it back and researching these references, I actually kind of find them pretty hilarious. This short film went in so many wild and unusually insane directions, yet I had a good time watching it. So like I said, it is rough around the edges, especially with the voice acting and animation, but I think it's cool to look back at this piece of cult film history. I'm not gonna say it's good or bad, but it's definitely one hell of a time. Although I cannot stress this enough that it is not for everyone. A lot of people may not find this funny or at worst offensive, but this was made in the mid-80s and shock humor was very common around that time. and some viewers still find it pretty hilarious today, myself included. But researching more about Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown, I was also interested in how Charles Schulz reacted to the short film, but I couldn't find anything valid around that. However, I found a comment on the YouTube upload from someone named Mr. Unidyne, I hope I said that name right, who said that Schulz saw the short film at an animation convention after being persuaded by Jim Reardon and his friends to watch it. And after watching it, his only comment was, "Very clever, very funny, but just don't do it again, okay?" Based on that response, he wasn't too happy about the short film, but I guess he didn't want to make a big deal out of it. But it's not 100% confirmed since this is from a YouTube comment and the comment section aren't always the most reliable in research, so that story's still up in the air. But if it did happen, Jim and his friends got off pretty easily. Good thing they didn't get the Mad Magazine treatment when Schulz got back at them for parodying his property on a July 5th, 1973 comic strip. Still though, this short film has had a lot of history over the past few decades and it's still being viewed today, especially coming from the mind of Jim Reardon. As for Jim, he would be hired by John Kricfalusi as a writer for Mighty Mouse The New Adventures in 1987, and then soon worked on Tiny Toons Adventures 2 years later. Then in 1990, he would be one of the directors and storyboard consultants for The Simpsons and directed multiple amounts of episodes. And way later in his career, Jim became a co-screenwriter and story supervisor along with director Andrew Stanton on Disney Pixar's WALL-E, which he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay at the 81st Academy Awards. And he continued to work as a writer and head of story for the recent Disney movies like Wreck-It Ralph and its less superior sequel and Zootopia. So it seemed Jim had a pretty good role in his career, and it all stemmed from this short film.